But now you're seeing the admin tweeting out hate about Aliyah Boston. A social media admin for a team tweeting out hate about Aliyah Boston. And by the way, if you watched yesterday's game, I don't think Aliyah Boston hit a single person with an elbow. Like, I don't actually think that Aliyah Boston hit a single person with an elbow.
That's not just frustration. That's recognition of a pattern that's been building since day one. The Unrivaled social media admin liking Caitlin Clark hate tweets before the league even tipped off. And now, during the season, they're publicly posting criticism of Aliyah Boston, a league account targeting one of their own players. So we need to understand what's actually happening here, because this isn't just about social media drama.
You'll never forget the A'ja Wilson's face when she heard the Fever one. When A'ja Wilson heard the Fever beat the Atlanta Dream, it was like she'd seen a damn ghost. Because that's just the way this is. And it's, you hear like Angel Reese being like, oh, you know, it's so great to play for fans that basically that are positive towards all the players. And I'm like, dude, you don't, like, that is not sports. That is not sports. And that's the weirdest.
Watch Angel Reese's face when she heard the Fever beat the Dream. That reaction tells you everything about the dynamic that exists in this league. There's a fundamental divide between how Fever players are treated versus everyone else. And here's what makes this fascinating from a competitive standpoint. The rest of the league thinks they're punishing Indiana by isolating them, but they're actually doing the opposite. They're creating exactly the mentality that builds championship teams.
This is not sport. Like, it's so funny when it comes down to this. Is like, this Unrivaled will never succeed as a sports league. It might succeed as a traveling show, which is why I think it's smart to turn it into a traveling show. It will not succeed as a sports league because they refuse to allow any rivalries. They think rivalry is a bad thing. It's everything about the WNBA is fucking bullshit when it comes to sports. Like, you can't do that. Like, again, it's not a men versus women's thing. It's not. Like,
that's the core issue right there. Unrivaled is trying to operate as a sports league while actively rejecting the fundamental elements that make sports compelling. No real rivalries. Constant praise for the same 5 anointed players. Everyone treating it like summer camp instead of competition. Compare that to actual women's basketball that works. The Irish Super League. Tallaght versus Waterford. Those fans didn't show up for positivity and player appreciation. They showed up because they wanted their team to destroy the opponent. That's sports. That's what creates investment.
Fans. There's like nothing personal. Nothing personal. You got the Waterford fans who there was a beatdown. There was a rival, like the entire Talca fan. There was not a hatred towards the players, but it was we want to beat these fuckers. Every fan wanted to. Like, it was as big as any of the men's games. And that's what I was like, that's sports. That's sports. You want these rivalries. You want these heated rivalries. And it seems like Unrivaled, it's everyone versus the Fever in the WNBA, and it's the entire league of Unrivaled versus the Fever players in Unrivaled. Like, it seems like that. It seems like that, and you see it with Fever players. They just hang out. They just hang out together. They just hang out together. All the other players are there.
Here's the specific example that proves the point. Tallaght had been mediocre for years. Waterford came down every single season and dominated them. Then Tallaght signed Eva Cunningham, made it to the National Cup semifinal, and faced Waterford again. The arena was electric. Not because everyone loved both teams, because the Tallaght fans desperately wanted to beat the team that had embarrassed them for years. The Waterford fans wanted to maintain dominance. That intensity, that genuine desire to win, made it as significant as any men's game that season. Now look at what's happening with the Fever. Every other team in Unrivaled is hanging out together, praising each other constantly, treating competition like it's secondary to friendship. Meanwhile, Fever players are isolated, hanging out only with each other, developing a completely different mentality.
I don't want another team to like the Fever. The Fever are fucking killers. And that's one of the things I don't think people realize, is that Indiana Fever team are killers. They are a team that absolutely have a chip on their shoulder. They're a team of killers. And I don't think people realize what the rest of the league are doing. What Unrivaled are doing. Do you know how powerful having a chip on your shoulder is? Do you know how powerful it is having the mentality that everyone is out to get you. Like, there's a reason why Jose Mourinho won a Champions League with Porto.
That chip on your shoulder is the most powerful motivational tool in sports. Jose Mourinho understood this perfectly. When he took over Chelsea in 2004, the first thing he did was put a target on his team's back. Created an us-against-the-world mentality, Chelsea hadn't won the league in 50 years. Within one season, they became the most feared team in world football. Best defense in the league, went 40 games unbeaten. Every single match felt like a cup final. Because Mourinho convinced his players that everyone wanted them to fail. The Fever are getting that same treatment, except they didn't have to manufacture it. The league is providing it organically. Every game, opponents are trying to physically intimidate Caitlin Clark in ways they don't with other rookies. Social media admins are posting hate about their players. Other teams' players constantly glaze the same 5 stars while never acknowledging what Boston or Kelsey Mitchell accomplish. And the Fever are absorbing all of it, letting it fuel them.
To do. And you're looking at that type of a team and that type of mentality, and I fucking love this. I love this. I think it is the most bullshit thing ever for an admin, most unprofessional thing ever, but like, professionalism has not been a strong suit of Unrivaled, no offense. And treating it like it's a real professional sport has not been a strong suit of Unrivaled. Like, you've literally just got every player just constant glaze for the same 5 players, the same 5 anointed ones. Paige Beckers, like, you're the only, like, you'll never see an opponent. You'll see an opponent of Paige and everyone be asked with Paige and not constantly glaze. You'll never see a fucking opponent.
Look at what happened with Damiris Dantas. She got injured, left the team, and the Fever got better. They played 10 players deep in the playoffs and improved without her. That's not normal. Most teams collapse when they lose rotation players. But Indiana has built something different. A mentality where every player who stays has bought into being the team everyone wants to fail. That creates accountability. If you're not fully committed to that mentality, you don't fit. If you are committed, you become part of something bigger than individual talent. This is why the Fever don't need to chase superstars in free agency. They need to find players who have been overlooked, undervalued, disrespected, players with their own chips on their shoulders who will thrive in an environment where the entire team operates with that edge.
Great. Like, they're the people you're talking about. But you know that Sykes mightn't even make an all-Unrivaled team. With the way things are going, Sykes mightn't even make an all-Unrivaled team. At the end of the day, they all want to just scream point guard to a player that hasn't played point guard in 2 years. They all just want to shout out their buzzwords. And they all want to shout out their buzzwords while having the unpunished hate of Fever players. Because you better believe, if a team admin said this about any player on any other team, people be up in arms. But the Fever players are fair game. Let's not forget that. The Fever players are fair game. And you know what? Good. Good. Because that's the mentality towards the Indiana Fever. It means that anyone who joins the Indiana Fever...
Natasha Mack is the perfect example. Watch her performance in training camp and early season games with Indiana. That was the most effort and intensity she'd shown since her Seattle days. In Dallas, in Phoenix, she was just collecting paychecks. But put her in an environment where the team mentality is about proving everyone wrong, and suddenly she's playing with purpose again. That's what the Fever need to target in the draft. Raven Johnson fits this perfectly. She's been the most underrated player in college basketball for 2 years. Elite defender, high basketball IQ, does all the winning plays that don't show up in box scores. And she's been completely overlooked by media and draft analysts who only care about scoring. Put her on the Fever, surround her with that mentality, and she becomes exactly the type of gritty, hustle player who thrives in Indiana's system.
Has got to buy into that. Has got to know. The Wanna Bonner didn't. Fuck her. They got better without her. They replaced the Wanna Bonner with freaking nobody. They went with 10 players in the playoffs. They got better without her. This is the only team that seems to get better with every player going down. Because that is the mentality you have to have. Like, I don't mind taking an Odyssey Sims. Like, I don't mind surrounding. Like, I don't even think the Fever need an excess of talent. Like, all the Fever need to do is surround their big 3 with people who are with gritty hustle players who want to be there and know how to win and are willing to do what it takes to win. And that's what you need to fucking do.
Boston is already in her villain arc among WNBA fans, and she hasn't even done anything wrong. Watch yesterday's game against unrivaled opponents. She dominated inside without a single elbow thrown. She was just better, stronger, more skilled. But because she's a Fever player, because she's not one of the anointed ones who gets constant praise, every physical play gets scrutinized. Every time she establishes position in the post, it's called dirty. Compare that to how other physical post players are treated. When they body opponents, it's celebrated as tough basketball. When Boston does it, league social media admins post about it negatively. That double standard is creating exactly the edge that makes great players greater. Here's what the rest of the league doesn't understand. They think they're punishing the Fever by excluding them socially, by criticizing their players, by treating them differently than the favored teams and favored players. But they're actually building Indiana into something far more dangerous than a team with just talent. They're building a team with an identity. Think about championship teams across sports history. The ones that sustain success don't just have the best players. They have a mentality that separates them from everyone else. The 2004 Pistons weren't the most talented team, but they had a collective chip on their shoulder about being overlooked. The 2011 Mavericks were fueled by years of playoff disappointments and being dismissed as too old. The 2016 Cavaliers used a 3-1 deficit as motivation to complete the greatest finals comeback ever. The Fever are developing that same mentality, except it's being reinforced constantly by how the league treats them. Every social media slight, every time opponents praise each other but never acknowledge Indiana's players, every physical game where Caitlin gets targeted but the refs swallow their whistles, every article that credits their success to one player instead of the team, all of it feeds into this us-against-the-world identity that makes teams unbreakable. And here's the crucial part. This only works if the players buy in completely. You can't fake this mentality. You can't manufacture it with speeches. It has to be genuine, and it has to be reinforced by actual evidence that the team is being treated unfairly. The Fever have that evidence in abundance. The Unrivaled social media admin liking hate tweets before the season started, that's documented. League accounts posting criticism of Boston while praising opponents, that's documented. The massive disparity in how physical play is called when Fever players are involved versus when they're not, that's documented. Boston is becoming the perfect embodiment of this mentality. She was Rookie of the Year in 2023, one of the most dominant defensive players in the league, a double-double machine who does everything right, and she gets a fraction of the recognition that other young stars receive. She's not on the all-unrivaled team, despite being arguably the best player in that league right now. She doesn't get the endorsement deals, she doesn't get the media coverage, she just keeps dominating, keeps winning, and keeps adding to her list of perceived slights. That's what creates an MVP mentality, not the players who get everything handed to them and praised constantly, the players who have to earn every bit of recognition, who have to be undeniably excellent before anyone acknowledges it, who use every slight as motivation to get better. Boston is on that path right now, and the league's treatment of her is accelerating it. Look at how the Fever construct their roster around this mentality. They're not chasing big names in free agency. They're finding players who fit the identity. Kelsey Mitchell was undervalued for years before the Fever built around her properly. Lexi Hull was a second-round pick who became a crucial rotation player. Erica Wheeler bounced around the league before finding her role in Indiana. These aren't accidents. These are deliberate choices to find players who have something to prove. The 2025 draft gives Indiana another opportunity to add to this foundation. Raven Johnson is the obvious fit. 4 years at South Carolina, elite defender, winner at every level, and completely overlooked by casual fans who only care about scoring. She's exactly the type of player who will thrive in Indiana's system because she's been undervalued her entire career despite doing everything right. Put her next to Caitlin in Boston. Give her the defensive assignments against the opponent's best guard. Let her make the winning plays that don't show up in highlights and watch her become indispensable. The contrast with how other teams operate couldn't be clearer. Unrivaled is the perfect example. 6 teams, 30 players, and it feels like 25 of them are constantly praising the same 5 stars. Everyone wants to be friends. Everyone treats competition like it's secondary to maintaining relationships. That might work for a traveling exhibition show, which is apparently what Unrivaled is becoming. But it doesn't work for building championship teams. Real competition requires real stakes. It requires players who genuinely want to beat their opponents, not just share the court with them. It requires teams that develop identities beyond just collecting talent. It requires environments where being disrespected becomes fuel instead of discouragement. The Fever have all of that because the league has given it to them. And here's what makes this sustainable. The Fever's core is young and locked in for years. Caitlin is a rookie. Boston is in her 3rd year. Mitchell is in her prime but signed long-term. They're not building for one championship run. They're building a dynasty around a mentality that gets stronger every time someone disrespects them. Every time a social media admin posts something negative, every time opponents target them physically, Every time media members credit their success to one player instead of the team, all of it reinforces the identity. The villain arc for Boston specifically is just beginning, and it's going to make her better. She's already one of the best players in the league. When she adds the edge that comes from being constantly disrespected despite excellence, she becomes unstoppable. That's the path to MVP. Not being the most talented player in the league, but being the most driven, the most motivated, the most determined to prove everyone wrong. So when you see league social media admins posting criticism of Fever players, when you see other teams' players constantly praising each other but never acknowledging Indiana's excellence, when you see the massive disparity in how physical play is officiated, understand what's actually happening. The league isn't punishing the Fever. They're building them into exactly the type of team that dominates for years. The question isn't whether this mentality works. We've seen it work across every sport at every level. The question is whether the rest of the league realizes what they're creating before it's too late. Because right now, they're giving Indiana every reason to develop a chip on their shoulder, and that's the most dangerous thing you can give to talented players who know how to win. Boston's first MVP is coming, probably not this year in the WNBA, but soon, and when it happens, when she's undeniably the best player in the league and finally gets the recognition she's earned, remember that the path to that moment was paved by everyone who disrespected her along the way. Every slight, every criticism, every time she was overlooked despite excellence, all of it made her better. That's what the Fever are building, not just a talented team, but a team with an unbreakable mentality. And the league is helping them do it every single day,